Mode. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I interview. Well, yes, I interview them, but I actually first introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. As more often than not, what happens on the show is one guest is referred by a previous guest, and Dr. Marcia Gale Davis has referred more wonderful people to the show than anyone. I think I should make her my permanent booker because everybody she's introduced us to has been amazing, has been lovely, and today I'm sure will be no exception. We have a wonderful lifestyle medicine doctor named Dr. Cheryl True. Please welcome her to the show. It's very nice to meet you.
Hi, thank you. It's very nice to meet you as well. An honor to be here today, and a thank you, of course, to Dr. Marcia Gale Davis as well. It really tickles me to be on your show today.
Yeah, well, it's like the people she finds are like treasures. So, Dr. Cheryl True, who are you, and what are you doing in lifestyle medicine that we should?
I am a family practitioner, actually by training. And I came across lifestyle medicine almost by accident, but found that it really fit who I was as a physician. So I went to medical school at the University of Iowa, did my residency in Davenport, Iowa in family medicine, and was in private practice as a board certified family medicine doc. And then in, I think, 2013, discovered American College of Lifestyle Medicine and said, wow, this is what medicine needs to be, and jumped in with both feet.
That's fantastic. So just maybe about 8 years ago. So was that the first time you actually heard those words, lifestyle medicine?
It was, and it helped maybe put together a lot of things that I knew in my own way of practice, and it helped me to connect things that were very piecemeal, things that had never been put together for me before. And it also introduced me to a community of very forward-thinking, positive, energetic individuals that were really out to make medicine better for everybody.
Was that the first time you ever heard of a plant-based diet? Was when you were introduced to lifestyle medicine?
You know, in those terms, yes. I had always, in the past heard of vegan and vegetarian, but the phrase plant-based was new to me at the time. I attended my first conference in 2013, and I think Colin Campbell spoke at that one and talked about plant-based diets. And I was like, oh, wow, this really describes things in an easier to understand way than a lot of maybe the connotations that go along with trying to figure out what those other words mean.
You know, it's so interesting to me, Dr. Truehouse. So I interview a lot of physicians, and I know a lot of physicians, and some of them get this information maybe from reading the China study or seeing Forks Over Knives, and they just run with it, and they change their diet, they change their family's diet, they change even how they practice medicine, and other ones are like, not so much.
Yeah. I think for me, it changed a lot of the things I thought about. I discovered health coaching. I became a health and wellness coach through Wellcoaches. I took a nutrition course through the Colin Campbell plant-based nutrition certificate course. Really found that there were things lacking in my education that I really wanted and needed to really help connect people with moving the needle for them. I think there was always a lot of frustration. You'd see people that you'd think you had a really good plan as they left your office. You'd see them about 3 months later and say, hey, how'd it go? You were really energized. You were going to do all these things. And, it's often the same story. I did really well for a week, and then life happened. And here I am back at the same place I started. And I think with lifestyle medicine, and especially with coaching, I found a new way to engage with people that looked at what they wanted, not just what I wanted, but what they wanted, and set some of those goals so that they could really move forward in a stepwise fashion and understand that process along the way.
Do you use that thing a lot of the doctors have talked about called motivational interviewing?
Yeah. That was something, I think in medical school, I had heard that phrase. Maybe we did an exercise or so on it, but then it was never modeled for us. We didn't really pick up on it, especially throughout the clinical years. And I found that as I was trained as a coach, that was such an important part that maybe we did bits and pieces of it, but to have that framework and structure for it added so much to your ability to help people with behavior change. And I think we often didn't think about what we were asking people to do as behavior change. We were, prescribing or telling somebody what they needed to do to fix a disease, rather than helping them change their lifestyle.
Yeah, it just seems that, I mean, most doctors I go to, unless they are a lifestyle medicine doctor, never ask me about my behaviors. I mean, other than the obvious smoking and drinking, it's always on the form, but never about what you eat or how much you exercise or how much stress you have or how much sleep. None of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, in other words.
Yeah. And, those pillars have been such a nice way to really describe that foundation of our health. If we can easily describe just even those 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine to folks, it gives them a basis to maybe put together the pieces of their life in a different way. If you tell somebody that their sleep impacts their blood sugars, for a diabetic, that may be an eye-opening experience for somebody who's maybe, burning the candle at both ends, or the impact of exercise that can have on their sleep habits. So we do see this intricate interwoven components of all those pillars that become important to people depending on what their goals are, what their values are, and what their needs are. They can really focus their attention in the way that's right for them.
Nice. So what do most people seek you out because they're just looking for a doctor in Iowa, or because they are interested in making some of these behavioral changes?
Maybe both. I tend to do quite a few lectures, and I think people get excited when they hear that there's something that maybe fits with their value system, or something that they're missing in their care. Maybe they're interested in a plant-based lifestyle, but no one understands that. Their family doesn't understand it. Their community isn't supportive of them. And so looking for ways to really help people either support the lifestyle they already have, or that they're trying to start something new. They've had a health crisis happen, and they want to do something different, but never maybe could make that jump.
Right. So as a health coach, does that mean you also work with people virtually, and also in addition to working with people in the office?
I haven't. I added another job actually right as COVID was starting, and have been focusing there somewhat more. My practice had been a lot of group CHIP classes. And when COVID happened, that wasn't something I was asking people to do, was to gather. And this year has been busy. So I didn't really jump into that virtual world. And I'm hoping as the pandemic settles down that we'll get back into that group setting.
Nice. You're also a CHIP facilitator, aren't you? Talk a little about that, because I went through that program many years ago and loved it.
Yeah. When I went to my first lifestyle medicine conference, I had been introduced to CHIP. And to me, it was such a nice package of a way to do this complete health improvement program. It was pre-done, so a lot of the work that you need to help people was already there for you. And then as a facilitator, you can kind of work to that level of your license. So really being able to help people with the very basics of behavior change. And a lot of it was about understanding what are the chronic diseases we suffer from. How do our lifestyle choices impact those chronic diseases, and then how to make the changes to help make those chronic diseases go a different path. And I think that the folks that we've had in our classes have just been overwhelmed with how powerful it is to not only have that information, but also to gather with others that are going through that same journey and supporting each other. So I'll talk a little bit about lifestyle medicine pillars in a bit, but to have those things come together and intersect, make it a very powerful and impactful course for people that are trying to make that journey for changing their lifestyles.
How many times a year do you run the CHIP program?
Several. I'm sorry, trying to think back. We haven't done them this year, this past year and a half.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry, maybe every couple months, right, as we would start a new one.
I just realized that, you and I know what it is, but Apple's watching. What is the CHIP program? Not everybody knows. We've had Dr. Deal on the show many times, and originally it stood for Cardiac Health Improvement Project, but now it stands for Complete Health Improvement Program, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's a program that was developed by Dr. Hans Deal 35 years ago, maybe, to help people change their lifestyles. And it really focused on those different components: your nutrition, your physical activity, your stress reduction, bringing people into a group setting to help learn from each other. We have a kit that comes with the program that has a workbook, a textbook, a cookbook, and now an exercise book. And they watch a professionally produced video at each session. And then we have kind of homework assignments that go along with this, in which they reflect upon their own lives and the information that they've learned. And then also we do food samples. So really trying to promote that whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And then during the program, which we would run ours, it's 18 sessions, and we would give them over either 9 or 12 weeks, depending on how we were set up. But we would do blood tests and things like your weight or blood pressure during the course. And so we would do 3 different sets of cholesterol, blood sugar, beginning, middle, and end, and then really let people see how what they were doing impacted some of those numbers that are important to their health. We would have a graduation at the end and really celebrate their successes. They could invite their family and friends. We could also do some potlucks during that. So as people were maybe adopting a whole food plant-based lifestyle, they could practice with it and bring those dishes to the group and really interact with others. And I think one of the nicest things about that group setting is that if somebody has something that's a challenge to them, they could discuss it. And often one of their classmates would have a solution for them just from that lived experience. And those are really also powerful tools for helping people to make and adapt their lifestyle changes.
I think one of the great things about the CHIP program when you can do it again is because you're doing it with other people, and it's very motivating to do things in a group like that. You don't feel all alone.
Yeah, and there's virtual CHIP programs that are going on. We had just decided that we really wanted to stay in person. So as this year hopefully settles down, maybe we'll get back to them.
Yeah, because the best part was the food, because I remember they made waffles, and it's like, if you could make waffles, then I'm in, One of the weeks it was waffles. Do you actually do the cooking part too when you run the program?
Yeah, my co-facilitator is a physical therapist by training, and so we would share some of those responsibilities. And her husband also cooks, so we would both bring things in, and then as people got into the class, they would start bringing things in, and we would do some demos occasionally in the class too. Pick a dish and just do everything at the table right there in front of them too.
That's great. Yeah. When you first heard of lifestyle medicine in 2013, what was your diet like? And then did you change it immediately, or did you transition more slowly to a plant-based diet?
I'd never been a big meat eater. Just wasn't something that was a big part of my life. And I think I'd always thought that I should just become a vegetarian, maybe have that label per se. And I can't remember what year, maybe 2005-ish, I worked late on Wednesday nights, and I was getting ready to go meet some friends for dinner. And there was a segment from NPR on the radio, and it was about poultry and how the bacteria get into our food supply. And this was a farm. You could go pick your own chicken, and you could hear the chickens kind of clucking in the background. And all of a sudden the chicken went, rah! And I was like, oh, that poor chicken. I know what happened to that chicken. It made me feel terrible. And as I got to dinner, I'm like, guys, I can't eat chicken tonight. This segment just really bothered me. And I never ate meat again after that. So that was my push to becoming vegetarian. And then in 2013, I think, when I heard Colin Campbell, I'm like, wow, the health benefits. Why didn't they teach us about this? And so I think from that point on, it really became not just about the animal welfare and not harming other beings, but about the health benefits from a plant-based lifestyle, and not just maybe the processed or junk food, the vegan food, but really whole foods as grown, foods that could really give us that nutrition that we need and feed those things in our bodies that really help us stay healthy or can reverse some of the conditions that we have that make us unhealthy.
Yeah, that's great. I love when you have the ethical piece as well as the health piece. That's our audience definitely really appreciates that in the people. Let's see, you do something called Walk with the Doc, and I've heard of that in other cities. Who founded that? And that is such a fabulous idea.
Yeah, so this is, I think, one of my favorite programs. Walk with the Doc was founded by a cardiologist in Ohio, Dr. David Sabger, and his goal was to get his patients out and moving. He had some frustrations in his own practice where he would recommend activity and people would come in and they wouldn't do it. So one day he said, well, come and meet me and my family. We're going to go for a walk in the park. And it really took off from there. It became a nonprofit organization that there are chapters of Walk with a Doc all across the globe, not just in the US. So I started a chapter of Walk with a Doc here in the Quad Cities. And I think mine was a little bit unique. So part of the program for Walk with a Doc is that you ask people to come and you give an educational component. So there's a 3 to 5 minute short lecturette that you give before you go out and walk. And you encourage people to walk and talk while they're out. So we've set up a 3-mile course. People can go at their own pace. They can do as much or as little as they want. And the unique part about the chapter that we started was that I partnered with my veterinarian. And part of my goal with that was, a lot of animals suffer from conditions that humans suffer from: obesity, arthritis, diabetes, and they suffer for some of the same reasons that we do. So I thought, wow, if we could get animals out, it also gets their people out, and we reach a different audience than we would reach just through the medical community. And so our first event, I think we had 104 people and dogs show up for that walk. And over the years, that the walk has been really fun because it's allowed us to interact with the community in different ways too. We were part of a CDC funded grant that put Walk with a Doc headquarters, the local chapter, National Park and Rec, our local Park and Rec, and a program called Walk with Ease together in a research project. And I think there were eight sites across the US that participated in that. And so being a little bit a part of research was kind of fun too. And then we've also done a partnership with a local university where they had a service learning project. So it was the occupational therapy students and the physician assistant students that joined with us over the course of a semester. So the PA students did some blood pressure checks and, like just general health counseling. The OT students had different groups that they were parts of, like there was an exercise group, an outcomes group. I can't remember, there were 6 different categories, but that was part of their assignment for the year. So they were broken into teams. They each had a component they had to do along with attending the walks. And so it was really a lot of fun to bring this energetic group of young students together to show them what can happen in a community when you reach out and you go to where the people are. So they also have a small clinic at their school, and they can invite their patients to come with them and walk as well. So just those intersections where you can get out and, I always say there's no clock, there's no white coat, there's no stethoscope. It's just time to talk that we often don't have in the office. So you can reach people in different ways. They have an opportunity to ask you questions. You have an opportunity to share things that maybe you don't have time for in an office visit. So they're very rewarding. Some chapters across the country will do them maybe every week or every month. Some do them indoors, some do them out. So wherever you're at, you can look up Walk with a Doc and see if there's a Walk with a Doc group in your community. And if not, maybe you can encourage your doctor to join and create one of their own.
I wonder if we have one in the desert where it's like 122 degrees. I don't really see a lot of people walking, let alone the doctors, but that's such a cool program. Kathy says, I've walked with Walk with a Doc, Dr. Sabdir. I lived in the town he grew up. And I love the idea that you paired it with the veterinarian because, like you say, if dogs are overweight, it's usually because they're not eating healthy either.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of fun. We, there are some different iterations of this that you'll see. There's been, groups that will highlight walk with a doc, dance with a doc, cook with a doc, roll with a doc. So, they'll kind of make it their own. So it's a very fun program. We do, I'll do some special event ones too. Usually once a year, I do lectures at the family medicine residency program here in town. And we do one every year that's a walk with a doc. So the residents and the medical students and any of their patients and faculty that want to come, we give a short lecture and then go out for a walk during their noon hour that they have their daily conference at. And so that's usually very well enjoyed. I have a couple of pictures in the slide deck about that, but they're always like, wow, why can't we do this every day?
I love that. Walk with a doc, talk with a doc, and cook with a doc. Would you like to start sharing your slides? And I know you prepared some for us.
Sure. All right, let me get back there. That's not it.
That's great.
Oh,
Just if you change the mode views in will be so we don't see the sides.
okay. Do you see just the
perfect now? Perfect.
All right. So, I think one of the things in lifestyle medicine that we focus on a lot is chronic disease, and that many of the chronic diseases that we have impact so many of the folks in our population. 6 in 10 adults have at least one chronic disease, 4 in 10 have 2 or more. And, if I'm doing a talk, I often ask the audience if they know anybody that has heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, and pretty much every hand in the audience will go up. So also, this is very expensive. This costs our country a lot of money. It costs us as individuals a lot of money. And so these are some of those top leading causes. And again, we all know somebody that has some of these diseases. So one of the things in the light of our communities is that we know a lot about our communities, but as a physician, I never knew that our community assessed its own health every few years. And so if wherever you're at in your communities, looking for your community health assessment or health needs assessment can really tell you about the people around you and what diseases that we see. The component on the left says that our main mortality risk factors are from our lifestyle. And I think that's something that people don't often think about. They often think that it's in my genes, I don't have a choice. I'm going to get diabetes no matter what I do. And for the most part, that's not true. Really, our environment and our choices play a big role there. This is one of my favorite slides, and I think one of your previous guests has referred to this. But this tells us that of all the diseases that we have that are non-communicable diseases, those heart disease, respiratory disease, digestive, neurologic, endocrine, that the highest risk factor we have is from what we eat. You can see that top line says the dietary risks, and it's just so much that we don't focus on this in our training as physicians or in our practices. But seeing this should be the biggest thing that we look at, is how do we help our patients eat for their health? I mentioned the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and this is those 6 pillars in kind of an infographic form. So lifestyle medicine, for your audience who may not know, I'll read the slide here, is an evidence-based approach to preventing, treating, and even reversing diseases by replacing unhealthy behaviors with positive ones, such as eating healthfully, being physically active, managing stress, avoiding risky substance abuse, adequate sleep, and having a strong support system. And we know that these things sound very simple, they sound very common sense, but I can't tell you how many folks that I would see that would say, Doc, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I just don't do it. So there's got to be that secret sauce for helping our patients to do those things that they already maybe know intrinsically how to do, how to help them with those behavior changes. So from a nutrition standpoint, that whole food, plant-based diet is so important in giving us our fiber, our phytonutrients, that nutrient-dense food source that our bodies really desire. And we can see the things that go wrong when we don't eat those types of foods. Those other pillars, sleep, physical activity, the substance abuse, stress management, social connections, are all very intricately linked. When I think of mechanisms, maybe a drug is going to impact some disease that we have, we often would see a graph of a cell and what the intricate mechanisms of the cell and where we're going to make that intervention. And I kind of look at us as that, how do we make this intervention that maybe is only going to impact that one little place in the cell, but really it's going to impact us globally for our whole selves. We're a very connected being. We can't really separate out all those things. So even though we define a lot of these pillars, just know that they really are very interrelated. And for a lot of people, they're like, wow, that's really nice, but that's overwhelming to me. How do I do all of these things, and where do I start? And I think this is a nice infographic that the FACLM has put out about some of those first steps. Taking that first step is very important. And I think this is also where a lot of the coaching comes in, finding out what people want out of their life. Where do they want to go? What's their vision? What are the goals we're going to set to get them there? And from a health standpoint, for some people, maybe even picking just one place. And it could be a place as simple as saying, I'm going to add a fruit or vegetable in once a day at a meal. And for them, that adding an apple or an orange or a carrot in at one meal can really be that first step on making those changes that can take them all the way to that health improvement that they're looking for. So, we talk, I think, in conferences a lot about the research, but then we get home and you go into the clinic. Well, what happens in real life? And I think this is where we really can do so much good with lifestyle medicine, is getting it out into the real life, into the community. And lifestyle medicine is a nice phrase, but I think it's also something that isn't just a clinical practice, right? It's something that we can do each and every day out in the community. And I think that's where a lot of my shift has gone, into figuring out how to get that out. There's been research done on a phrase that's called community engaged lifestyle medicine by Dr. Krishnaswamy that really showed this can be a powerful, impactful, and it can work in almost any setting, right? You can impact this in communities that maybe don't have a lot of resources. This is something that can be done as long as people are coming together and utilizing what we have available. We can make this needle move. So from a standpoint, I was going to share a few things from my community that I see as, I see as being impactful, of ways to reach out. We have a group in town called the Quad City Health Initiative that has put out a Be Healthy QC resource guide. So just an easy go-to guide that people can look for things like, where to go for exercise, how do you do a nutritious diet, how do you change some of those connections that you're making. The Food Rescue Partnership tries to avoid food going into landfills, but we also recognize through this group the need for food in areas of food deserts, that there are a lot of hungry people out there. So rather than having food go to waste, let's feed hungry people. Our Quad City Health Initiative is supportive of a program called the Iowa Healthy Estate Initiative. And the Iowa Healthy Estate Initiative got the Double Up Food Bucks in the Quad Cities to happen this year. So we were at the farmers market talking about how people can double their dollars for getting fresh fruits and vegetables. We want people to get out into our communities, so giving them tools and resources to do that, such as we have our QC Trail. So this is a website that you can go to look for places to get out and be active. And there are bike paths and walking trails and also waterway trails. So knowing the resources in your town as a physician are very important. If you're asking your patients to get out and move more, give them some options for where they can find that ability to do so. And I mentioned everything is so interrelated. Another group in town is the Quad Cities Behavioral Health Coalition. So really looking at ways to take into account how all of these things fit together, how our behavior and emotional and mental health aren't really separate from our physical health, but just an integral part that we need to really support for folks. So we have a PlantPure Nation Pod. I don't know if you've had other pod leaders, but we have one here in town. This was started out of a documentary that came out in 2015, I believe, with the intent of forming this network across the country to support whole food, plant-based lifestyles. I was at a conference, I think we were in Tennessee that year, in Nashville, and Nelson Campbell was up talking about this documentary and talking about this goal to make these pods happen around. And I sat on my iPad in that meeting, like, I have to do this. This is what our community needs. So I signed up to be a pod leader, and we started Heartland Rooted 2015, 2016. And the first meeting I held, I had hung up some signs, flyers around the community. Didn't really know what to expect. A friend had gotten a room for us at her school. And as people came in, it was so exciting. We had, I don't remember how many the first time, like 14 or 20 people show up. And they all were so surprised to see other people who followed a whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I just remember one person walking in and saying, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one who eats this way. I feel so much better seeing these other folks here. So our pod has been going strong. We did take a break during the pandemic and had recently started up some outdoor gatherings again, but tried to have a virtual presence during the pandemic. But this is something we found that people were also missing, is that ability to gather in person, that's something that really helps support their choices and maybe help them to overcome challenges when they occur, that they know that there's other folks around that can be there to listen or to guide or to make suggestions, or if they're really wanting to share their experiences of how it really changed their life, inspiring somebody else. So we do a monthly meeting, we have a whole food plant-based potluck, and then we do an education hour after that. We'll either do a lecture in person, or maybe we do a panel discussion or have a food demo, or we'll Zoom somebody in to give a lecture from elsewhere. So these have been really, we've got a core group of people, and we think we've really impacted people and changed lives with these. One of the things that we've done with our pod is hold whole food plant-based meal prep workshops. So one of our local grocery stores had a program for this, and I approached them and said, hey, can I do a whole food plant-based group? And this wasn't something that they'd heard of. So, they had a database of recipes that you could choose from. So I created my own set of recipes. And at this grocery store, they do the shopping, the chopping, and then you come in at your station and you assemble your food. So we would do this once a month. We'd have, I think, 6 recipes, and everybody would go home with whole food plant-based meals. Some were ready to eat, some you could stick in the freezer for later, or some you could, like we did bean burgers, they could make them once they got home. But these, weren't just about food. It was about giving people time. Maybe they were short on time, so they have these ready-made meals that they could grab and eat. They could serve them to their family. There's plenty for everyone, but there's also that camaraderie that comes from gathering together and sharing that experience. That cuts down on your prep time, obviously, or you're shopping, but you're also bonding with other folks who are trying to go that same path. So these were very fun. We've halted these, of course, during the pandemic, but we've done some other events related to this, like a spice blends workshop, and looking forward to being able to get together again in the future to revise some of these, because people did find them really helpful, and they were cost effective. It was mostly the cost of groceries. Sorry, this isn't changing very fast.
Uh-oh. Yeah, and also I wonder if the view changed, because I'm seeing 2 slides at once now, whereas I see instead of seeing one slide fairly large.
Oh, let me back up one. I'll come back.
Yeah.
I just see the one.
Okay. Maybe that's what it's showing up as. I'm seeing double, but who knows? Could be me.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I see a slide that says whole food plant-based on a budget up on the upper left.
Yeah, and then I also see a second slide on the right in the same space. Instead of just seeing one slide, I'm seeing 2.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll continue on. I'm not sure how to change it, so if that's okay.
No, that is okay.
Okay. So this was a representation of ideas to get out into the community. I think our group has done a lot of lecture sets, and these have been things that the community has been so excited about. We see a lot of the same people, but then they also bring new people, or people that are seeking different ways to do things with their lives. We've gone to health fairs, we've done events at organizations, we've presented at a district meeting, and we try to really do this interdisciplinary. So there's a couple of physicians in our pod, we've got nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and we all bring a different component to these, but the community members that are part of this pod bring just as much. It's not about the book learning, it's really about how to interact with our community and give them tools and resources and ideas to help make those changes possible. So on the lower right is my co-facilitator for CHIP. So we did some promotion. We got to go on a local TV program. We go to these library workshops, and just the impact I think it has as the people ask questions that are in-depth questions, that they're truly wanting to make these things happen in their lives, and they're very empowered once they make those changes and on that journey. One other fun thing that we've done is some documentary screenings, and we had some Taste of Lifestyle Medicine micro grants to do food at these events. So, getting together a group of students, but also inviting community members to these. And then we would have a panel that would discuss some of the things that we saw from the documentary. And these are really also very powerful, because it gives that overview, and then you get to interact with your community and really find out what their detailed questions are and help them to make some of those changes and switches that they need to go off to adopt lifestyle medicine in their own lives. These are just some fun pictures from our Walk with a Doc events. The occupational therapy students are the ones in the matching shirts. The middle picture is from our first event. You can see a lot of dogs in there and strollers. You know, and the fun thing about Walk with a Doc is really there for everybody. Kids, dogs, adults, anybody can come. These are the residents that we met with out for a walk. And then we also got to present this on our a local program to talk about some health-related benefits of getting out and moving, and also about eating healthy. We had a community event called the Quad City Big Table. It was a way to really give the community a voice. And we hosted one that we talked about healthy lifestyles. And so this was an information gathering event for our community. We had topics that we discussed, and then we gave the information back to the promoters who really could get a snapshot of what Quad Cityans were looking for. So that was a really fun event because we got to hear from the segment of our community that wanted to make things better, to how to change things and how impactful that could be to each and every individual. Holding events with other groups, getting together, again, that social connection based around that whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And for your audience for lifestyle medicine, we do have an annual conference that has gone virtual. So if anybody really wants that in-depth dive into lifestyle medicine, that conference would be available across the globe. There's also, we talk a lot about food, but those pillars that go together. The Global Positive Health Institute has an event coming up this fall too that really focuses on positive psychology and how that impacts our overall health too. So I put, just for the fun of it, a healthy cake and a thinking outside the box image. And I think that should be it.
Nice. That spice blend workshop sounds great. I would love to take a spice blend workshop. Do you teach? That sounds like a lot of fun. Something that would really help people.
Yeah, and that was a way, we had a lot of fun with that one. We had 10 blends that we made. We did it at a grocery store. And
because it's a very unique class because people want flavor.
Sorry, you disappeared on me. Yeah, so we had, and our goal was to make these healthy blends that didn't have extra added ingredients. And so we had 10 blends that we chose. We had a spring and a fall one planned. And so we picked blends that would go with the season, but, taco flavorings, ranch dressing, Italian spice, just different things that are normal that people would use. But we made them without those added ingredients and taught people about the ease that you can do that on your own. You don't have to stick to the things that maybe don't fit your needs when you go to the store. This is easy to do on your own.
Amy is asking you to teach that class on Zoom. We want that class. I would love to do a spice blend class.
That would be doable.
Yeah. I love how you talk about double down if they buy fruits and vegetables, because it's so unfair the way that things are subsidized. And, a burger does not cost what a burger costs. I mean, and people it's $6 to buy maybe a large head of organic cauliflower, and you go to McDonald's and feed, a family for that. And so the fact that they're subsidizing it in that direction sounds wonderful. That will give you more if you buy fruits and vegetables.
Yep. And actually the program has been very, very well received. I know during that presentation, the Iowa Healthy Estates person was talking about the dollars that had come in to that program and the dollars that were spent in our communities. So she said people desire this. And one of the things that they learned was making sure that the places that people are shopping have what the people are looking for. It really avoids that waste. It doesn't help if somebody gets something they don't know what to do with it. Then they probably just will throw it out. So if they can really pick and choose the things that fit their needs, they're much more likely to use them and gain the benefits from them.
Right. So what's Iowa like in general when it comes to, is it a healthy eating mecca, or is veganism something that's relatively new to Iowa?
When I travel, I see a lot more options of plant-based foods than I do locally, but we do have some great businesses that do support whole food plant-based lifestyles. We had through the PlantPure communities, you could designate a restaurant as kind of an award for plant-based options. And we had a restaurant that ended up closing after we had flooding and stuff here, but we presented them with one of those recognition awards for serving plant-based, whole food, plant-based, no oil options, right straight out of the restaurant, that you could go in and they understood what it was you looked for. So yeah, there is healthy plant-based food here, and we've got a good community that supports each other. So if something new comes up, I think people are really quick to say, hey guys, I'm looking for this, where do I go? And there's always a ready answer for what you can do.
Nice. I was reading in your bio, it says you're a whole food plant-based meal prep group leader. What does that mean?
So that was in the slides I had, that grocery store program. So the way that we would do that was within our pod, we would advertise, what our recipes were for the month. People could sign up ahead of time. And then when they arrived, they assembled their meals and went home, with a copy of the recipe too. So it was something that they could duplicate at home if they liked it. So that was our workshop, was that once a month program through the grocery store.
One of the things, go ahead, sorry. No, please.
I was just gonna say, and those are things that, you don't need that grocery store setting. If people want to duplicate that in their own communities, you just need space and people willing to come together. The grocery store we went to, they prepped for us, but chopping vegetables, chopping fruits can also be kind of therapeutic, kind of meditative. So it's something that people could gather together to do. Maybe you do a group preparation for meals on your own. Somebody offers to shop. Somebody offers to bring the cutting boards and knives and some containers, and you can do this on your own. I've talked about that at other presentations and shared our recipe database out just so people had a starting place too. They weren't trying to do it from scratch. So that's been another way to just kind of get this going in communities, to share that life or plant-based eating doesn't have to be hard. There are many ways that you can adopt this.
Nice. One of the things our audience loves to know from just about every guest that comes on is, what do you eat in a day, and how do you exercise, and how do you sleep, and how do you manage stress?
Yeah. So I like to eat. Breakfast is often oatmeal, and I add in flaxseed and chia seeds and pumpkin seeds, some walnuts and dates. So that's usually breakfast. I often have snacks of fresh fruits and vegetables during the day. Lunch kind of depends on where I'm at, but I'm a person that for many, many, many years has always taken my lunch. So it's often leftovers from the night before. I tend to make a lot of soups. I have a garden, and using the things out of my garden is fun. So yesterday I made a soup that had zucchini and onion and kale and some cannellini beans. I have a veggie broth powder that always goes in there. I like Indian food, so I probably cook a lot of that. We had a potato, carrot, onion, and cassava curry yesterday. There's usually rice or quinoa in the fridge. And exercise-wise, I'm an avid cyclist, so anytime I can get out on my bike, and for me, the bike just isn't my bike. It's also my relaxation. So I had been to a lecture years ago about the relaxation response, and I can tell the instant I turn the corner that that's happening for me. But so I like to bike. I like to walk. I don't hold still very well. I'm usually out and about doing things. So I think that doubles for my stress management. Sleep, that's one of my weaker areas. I'm on the go a lot, but I think once I get to bed, I sleep and I'm good. But I'm pretty energetic. I think one of the things that a plant-based lifestyle has done for me is it's helped with recoveries. I can do exercise, pretty excessive exercise, and just go back to normal the next day. And I really attribute that to plants. I have asthma, and growing up, I couldn't run. I always wheezed. And I think as I adopted that plant-based lifestyle, that's one of the things that really improved for me. Even with medication and stuff, I had never quite had gotten there. And with plant-based diet, I never used to be a runner, and I can go out and run now. I've done a couple half marathons, and I would say that's something that I never would have guessed that I would do. Cycling, a 100-mile bike ride, and then just go about normal business the next day with minimal sore muscles, and plants do that for us. So
maybe we need another one. Now we need Cycle with a Doc.
Yeah, I'd go for that too.
That's great. You mentioned these wonderful soups that you make. Do you use the Instant Pot?
I don't. I'm more of a crock pot person, so I often throw them in the crock pot and come home and then they're ready.
Do you take your lunch to work?
And I have even through medical school, through residency, we had meals served to us in residency for lunch. There was always a meal. And I think by my third year, I said, that's not really the food I want to eat. I don't want to eat this restaurant food every day. And, started bringing my lunch. I went back to bringing my lunch, but it's just something that I've kind of always done.
That's great. Because hospital food has really not come very far for the most part.
There are some hospitals that are doing a really good job at that, and seeing more plant-based options at our hospitals is certainly a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. That's great. So I'm guessing people have to live in Iowa to see you.
Yeah, well, I'm out and about in the community a lot on both sides of the river. So I'm medical director at a health department on the other side of the river. So I see patients in our refugee immigration clinic as a civil surgeon there. So if you're a new refugee or immigrant in the Quad Cities, you can also see me there.
Wow. Oh, wow. It's so great. I mean, how do all you wonderful lifestyle medicine doctors find each other? Through the Academy of Lifestyle Medicine?
Yeah, I would say that has been my biggest influx, but it's funny, the first conference I went to, I think there were about 250 people there, and you got to know people, and you met people not just from the US, but across the globe. And that conference just grows every year. And the ACLM itself has really grown. And I think the reach that they've had to really put that education out there has been tremendous. And so there are people I've met virtually now that I've never met in person, but they're as close of friends almost as some of the people I've met in person. But yeah, I think our network through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has been tremendous to get us connected, to help us know what each other's doing and share practice styles or ideas to maybe move something forward in your community or your hospital or your residency program. There's a lot of emphasis on training, getting the people coming into medicine, not just as physicians, but as nurses, as pharmacists, as health coaches, as physical occupational therapists, as nutritionists, dietitians. I mean, there's a place for a lot of people within there. It's not just focused on physicians. So I think that interdisciplinary work has been very instrumental. To me, lifestyle medicine is helping us all speak a common language, right? We know the same basics, and then we can apply them within our fields to really give the patients that best benefit. So say in a practice, if you have a physician, a nurse, a dietitian, a health coach, and you all understand lifestyle medicine, really you're helping your patients to the best of your ability by sharing that common language and understanding the thought process that's going behind each other's disciplines.
Since you're board certified in family medicine, in addition to lifestyle medicine, does that mean you see all ages as family medicine?
Yeah. So my private practice prior to learning about lifestyle medicine, I would see, newborns in the hospital all the way up through any age, into the nursing homes. I did hospital work. As I switched into lifestyle medicine, I realized that I wanted that focus to be more on on that behavior change. And I'd say that there's more folks that will come as a maybe middle-aged person, but then they always take that home. Maybe they're impacting somebody else, even if you're not seeing that person. So maybe you're impacting a family, that mom or dad that comes in takes that home to the kids or takes it to work with them. And so it really has a trickle effect that can go beyond what we just see in the office.
When you're working with somebody on behavioral change, what obstacles are the most common ones you see?
I think one of them is the idea that eating plant-based is expensive. So that's a really good place to really help people understand how they can often lower their food budget. A lot of it comes down to diet, that they are worried that this is going to be hard or that the support isn't there. exercise is a challenge for a lot of people. So overcoming some of those physical activity barriers, maybe changing a person's perspective about what it means to be active and adopting those things that they find fun and that they can do every day. We often hear, got to go out and jog or run or do these things. And really it could be things like gardening or chasing your dog and throwing a ball. There's a lot of ways that we can help people to adopt those healthy behaviors. I think in the US, sleep is one that gets shortchanged across the nation. We almost pride ourselves on how little we sleep. And really, sleep has such impact that it's probably one of the most important parts of our days or our nights. And that helping people to adopt those healthy sleep behaviors for not just themselves, but even for their family, go a long way towards improving their overall health. So I'd say those three are probably the biggest ones.
Do you think that sometimes people don't like the food initially, and that can be an obstacle sometimes?
Yeah, and I agree. That's one place that I think when we do our pod meeting potlucks, that's one way that people often are introduced to the variety and the deliciousness of plant-based foods. Maybe they grew up thinking of healthy food as that cardboard and lettuce, right? There were not a lot of good options available in the grocery stores in the past. And I think now people have a better idea of how to adopt some of these recipes that make this food just as delicious as anything they did before they went plant-based, even more so.
Right. Well, I think lifestyle medicine is so great, and I wish everybody would always make sure their doctor hasn't, if not board certified, at least has an interest in it, because it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, and I think of our group within ACLM. There's different physician groups that gather, and one is a lifestyle medicine provider network that's growing. And so, getting ways out there for people to find those providers in their areas is important. I think one of the other things that helps to drive some of the ways that people practice is having patients that are interested in these things and maybe bringing that information to their physicians to share. Not everybody's aware of it. It often is still, you say, I do lifestyle medicine, and people say, what is that? So I think it's still a young field that not everybody is always aware of what that means. And so really helping to define some of that for your population is helpful.
Yeah. We have a lovely comment from Jerry in the chat. Dr. True is a true goddess, such a giving soul. Very nice. Do you compete with your bike races? I mean, do you do bike races or just a cycle? Do you ever do races?
No, just against me. So I'm competitive within my own Strava. So yeah, but no, no.
Well, that's great. Do you just do outside bike, or because what's the weather like in Iowa? Can you ride 365 days a year?
You can,
Nice.
if you have gear for it. I will ride year round. I mean, like right now, it's kind of warm and humid. This is my favorite time of year. I like hot and humid, but other folks would prefer to pedal inside, but we'll do, winter riding. We have some nice paths that are usually pretty well cleared. So if you like to cycle on the paths, you can get out. I've got 2 different bikes, so I can kind of pick and choose based on the weather or road conditions. So I've got bar mitts to put my hands in, and I can bundle up. So yeah, I'll go out year round.
Wow, we have a spin bike. I kind of like to do it inside, and then I can watch a show. That's kind of lazy, I know, but Shirley Ann says we need more physicians like you. Have you been able to influence any physicians since going plant-based lifestyle medicine in your world?
I think so. Maybe 4 years ago or so, I approached the family medicine residency program that I had graduated from. I approached them with a proposal for a lecture series, and they accepted my proposal. So I do some lectures for the family medicine residents and introduce that topic of lifestyle medicine for all the different pillars. So we kind of weave it into the resident wellness. So it's not just about patient care, it's also about self-care. And if you can imagine, residency is probably one of the more stressful times in life for physicians in training. They're busy, they're learning a lot, they're, sometimes they don't get a lot of sleep. Sometimes they're working really hard to learn things so that they can go back and apply it the next day. So it is a very stressful time. So we've done sessions with yoga, with Tai Chi, with mindfulness and meditation. I do a whole food plant-based meal option for them. We do walk with a doc. We talk about sleep. We talk about stress and social connection. So there are residents that they're very interested in this. And I think across the country, there are trainees that are looking for that in their programs as they go seeking where they're headed next. So yes, I think there's been a lot of good lifestyle medicine influence. At their program, their pharmacist is an ACLM member. We've got OTs and PTs that are also ACLM members, another physician. So I think we have a great community that we interact with, from that interdisciplinary route as well.
Wow. Have you ever heard of the True Health Initiative?
I have.
Because that's your name. I mean, that sounds like you'd be right up your alley,
Yeah, that's a great organization. Dr. David Katz initiated that one, and I get emails from them regularly in my inbox. But it always looks funny to see my name out there.
Yeah. Maybe that's what you should call your practice, True Health. I love it. Shirley Ann says we need more physicians like you. And then there was a question if people could join your pod virtually if they lived outside your area.
I can. I will have to share with you the name of it on Facebook. If you go to Heartland Rooted, we have a page on Facebook, and you can join our group as a closed group, but you can join it through there.
Wow, that is great. Oh boy, you just seem like you'd be such a fun doctor to go to if you have to go to the doctor.
You have to, that's right. It's kind of like that lifestyle medicine thing. Hopefully your patients do so well, you don't have to see them very often.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and then you can have more time for gardening.
That's right, or biking. And we have lots of animals too. So I enjoy my pets. That was, I think, one of those things in going vegetarian was I wouldn't eat my pets. Why should I eat some other animal? Kind of the ethical component. So we've got a nice multi-species household that keeps me busy.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, my veterinarian said to me, if you love your dog, why would you eat that cow? And I'm like, you're right. And I instantly, it was just, but not everybody thinks that way. So hopefully they'll get to it from another way, either the environment or their health or something like that. What are you growing in your garden right now?
I have kale and tomatoes and strawberries and Brussels sprouts and some herbs and asparagus and garlic and onions. I got a late start this year, so I think that's about all that's out there.
Wow, that's fantastic. Boy, you do it all. You bike, you cook, you hike, you garden. You're a doctor. That's amazing.
I told you I don't hold still well, so.
That is so cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's just been so nice getting to know you. And how can we support you? Do you like people to follow you on social media, or how can people connect with you if they live outside of Iowa?
I think our pod group is probably the easiest place. We have a Walk with a Doc page as well for the Quad Cities. So either of those two, you could message me there, or you can share my email. That works pretty well too. Oh, actually, so the Walk with a Doc headquarters has each of our pods supported, or each of our chapters supported. So no matter where you live, I do encourage you to look for that, or for your PlantPure communities, look for a pod near you. Those are two great ways. Virtual connection is wonderful, but those in-person connections are so powerful too. So I do encourage your folks to look at those headquarters level websites to find somebody near them too. And if there's not one, start one.
Right. I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was really nice. I mean, if you're this easy to talk to as a doctor, I'm sure you're great. It's just nice to meet you. Thank you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when we'll be having a fabulous Instant Pot cooking demo. We'll see if we can get Dr. True to get into the Instant Pot, because I think once she gets one, she'll love it. But Felicia Settery, who's been on the show before, has a new cookbook on the Instant Pot. She's going to be making turmeric spice potatoes, cabbage, and carrots, and an apple pie spice cake in the Instant Pot. Did you know you can even make cakes in the Instant Pot, Dr. True?
I did not. I have one. I just don't use it.
Oh, we've got it. You will love it. It's just, because I love the slow cooker, but you have to plan ahead with the Instant Pot. You get home from work and then just put it in, and 20 minutes, you've got one of your delicious soups.
Well, I'll have to tune in tomorrow, and then I can learn how to do that, because I think I haven't used it enough to be comfortable with it.
Right. Well, I promise it's easier than medical school. I promise you that. Thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you. Thanks all of you. And if you guys are free in 2 hours, we are doing our stand-up comedy show. It's absolutely free, and I will post the link right here. Thanks again, Dr. True.